So yeah, how are you? Uh, yes, this last weekend of boxing was rather interesting. Well, for several reasons. Anyway, there were couple surprises, and yeah, a couple of my predictions really didn't go down down well, and the biggest surprise to me was that Kerman Learaga was stopped by David or Avanesian. That one I just didn't see coming, to be frank, and yeah, I mean, Avanesian had been coming off a loss, stoppage to Kavaliauskash, whom I will talk about a little later. And it's just nothing suggested that he was capable of defeating a guy like Herman Learaga, because especially not by a stoppage. I don't know what happened there. Perhaps Avanesian does have more experience, I guess, from higher class fights, and so yeah. This is of course a learning curve for Learaga, and hopefully he can bounce back. I think he will, but it's not easy, of course. Perhaps when you are a puncher, you sometimes struggle against guys who are more boxers, of course. And there is a saying, of course, that a good boxer always or almost always beats a puncher, no matter how good he is. And that's what happened here. And perhaps it was just that nobody expected Avanesian to win, so perhaps he was a little taken too lightly, by Learaga and his man. I don't know, maybe not, but it's possible. So yeah, this changes quite a lot. I mean, I think Learaga, as the European champion, was, in the line to face one of the world titles. So now he will not, simply. And yeah, the road back can be hard, of course, but he's still young, and as I said, this is a learning curve for him, and yeah, he can come back, I think, hopefully. I mean, he's a knockout artist, and we can never get too many of those, of course. Yeah. Yeah, and then there was a fight that was between this guy Ray Robinson and Egidius Kavaliauskash. Well, I also predicted that as a knockout victory for Kavaliauskash, but he seemed to struggle against the taller boxer. Once again, it was a boxer fighting a puncher, and it was a draw. It ended as a draw. I mean, fight was even, and I mean, Robinson had 3 losses before this, so that kind of made me think that he would be like a pushover almost for Kavaliauska, because Kavaliauska, as I said previously, he knocked out Avanesian, so he's one of the hottest names from Europe right now also. But also for him this was a learning curve, and hopefully he can learn from this and come back even stronger. And yeah, and of course he seemed to struggle with Robinson's height and all that reach, and his jab, I think also. So that's always a problem for a puncher, getting past the jab, because a puncher doesn't, in many cases they don't use it really, they don't use the jab, not that much anyway, and sometimes they can use it to set up a punch, a power punch of course, and but not always either. And Kavaliauska, she's of course he didn't lose, but he didn't really, this fight didn't gain him any new fans, or it didn't really do good for him, because he was expected to beat this guy Robinson, and he struggled to get a draw. And of course some people were saying maybe Robinson should have won it, but they are perhaps a little bit biased Americans, yeah, but at least at least this guy didn't lose, so he can continue, hopefully getting bigger fights, Kavaliauska, because I think I mean, he's been a little bit too cocky, and so a little bit overconfident. He's gone out and said that he can beat any welterweight today, and after this fight actually, I think. And of course this doesn't prove to be, I mean, this fight didn't establish that in any way that he is capable of beating guys like Crawford or Spence or Thurman or Porter, because they are, all of them are also boxers. They are, especially Crawford and Thurman, and yeah, and they are also boxers who use their jab, and it will be very tough for a guy like Kavaliauska to beat any of them. I think it's almost impossible unless he really improves. I mean, this fight didn't really show that he, but that's just one fight, of course. He can do a lot better in the next, so he's already the only guy so far who has stopped Avanesian, for instance, and but of course I hope that he gets to fight one of those guys, the title holders, and yeah, and I hope that he has learned something from this fight, and yeah, yes, and Gvozdik, yeah, Gvozdik was he got a little easy first defense, but that happens, I guess. In many cases, first defenses in the world title reign are kind of a letdown, they are not always the best fights and his opponent and Google, he got injured and he had to give it up after 5 rounds.